I was just watching a YouTube video of a police officer, African American, and he was almost crying, talking about how he is a good police officer, that he doesn't do anything wrong, that he enforces the law, he does his job. And why is it that nowadays so many people are pretty much against the police? That they're talking about defunding the police or ending qualified immunity, um, and that in every profession there is a couple of bad apples. And I listened to everything that he said, and I agree with most of it. Um, I'm police friendly. Police are necessary in a civilized society. Someone has to enforce the laws. The problem that I have with most police officers today is this. Yes, there are some bad apples in the bunch. But if you were pulled over, or let's just say you're walking down the street, and a cop deems it suspicious, they ask you for your identification, which suspicion is not a crime. You don't have to give your identification. But they get aggressive and they force the issue. Threaten you with throwing you in a cage. Um, Other police officers show up on the scene, and it gets even more intense. That they all just stand together, even though that officer is violating your rights, and there's no recourse for you. You have to comply or go to jail. Or let's just say you're riding down the road and you commit a simple traffic infraction. Next thing you know, there's 3 or 4 police cars on the scene, even though you're doing everything that the police officer said. You give them your license, your identification, your insurance. You're complying with everything. If you do anything like film the police or anything of that nature, they ask your passenger for ID, which is against the law. He hasn't committed any crime, and they harp on it. They all band together, and they end up violating your rights. A lot of times, it ends up being violent. They pull you out of the car. They search you. They end up assaulting you. And in rare cases, which it seems like it's a lot here lately because it's being filmed, some people are losing their lives or they get assaulted. Now, in those cases that people are being assaulted or law-abiding citizens end up losing their life when they did really nothing wrong at that moment other than a traffic stop. And there's 4 or 5 or 6 police officers on the scene, and there's one officer that assaults them or ends up pulling his weapon and killing that person. My question to that officer is, how many bad cops were on the scene? Was it the one that was violating this person's rights, assaulted this person, or ended up killing him? Or is it the 5 or 6 that were on the scene that didn't interfere and didn't protect the citizen? See, that's the problem. Police are not policing the police. Police are banding together and all their reports coincide with each other, covering each other's ass. And they allow that bad police officer to stay on the force and continue violating people's rights, assaulting people, and in some cases killing people. Now, how many good police officers were really there? None. There wasn't any good police officers there. Wasn't that one bad actor? Because then you all broke the law in the process and violated this person's rights. That's the problem that society has right now with police officers. Your job is to enforce the law, not to make up laws as you go along. Just because you ask someone to do something doesn't make it a lawful order just because it's coming from you. We have constitutional rights. And we have certain inalienable rights that were endowed to us by our Creator. And you can't infringe on those rights just because you have a badge. And if other officers allow you to do that, then in my book, they're bad cops too.